Hi, everyone. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome. We're happy that you're joining us today for the latest episode in the Deconstructing SBIR webinar series. To introduce myself, I am the new Outreach Manager for the DHS SBIR program, and I am happy to be hosting this webisode where we are going to talk to you about our new and improved outreach ventures, including a bit about my role and how the program is working to help bolster awareness and provide you with resources on the program. We'll also have a special guest joining me today for a fireside chat, so we hope that you will stay on for that. But I'd like to start out today by giving a high-level overview of the program for those that are less familiar with DHS SBIR. Now, the SBIR program itself was established by Congress in 1982, and the goal of the program was for federal government to be able to partner with innovative small businesses to take advantage of their agility and entrepreneurial spirit in terms of funding different and unique solutions to our challenges across federal agencies. At DHS, our SBIR program serves the research and development needs of our operational components. There are 14 of those. We also have over 250,000 federal employees. Our topics originate from the internal collection of mission needs for innovation. So this could be in support of work for FEMA, TSA, or Coast Guard, to name a few. The program has 3 phases that start out with a phase 1, where we put out topics through a solicitation and ask for small businesses to submit proposals that will help us understand the concept you're proposing and how you would prove that feasibility or proof of concept. Now from there, phase 1 awardees are eligible to compete to receive a phase 2 award for a prototype development and demonstration. To put it simply, in phase 2, we're looking to say, this was a great concept, and now we're going to develop a prototype for those capabilities and demonstrate that it's possible. The third phase is called commercialization, but that can be for further R&D, test and evaluation, etc. Phase 3 work has to be derived from, extends, or concludes efforts that were performed under prior SBIR funding agreements. If you're familiar with SBIR, you probably will have heard that before. And so that being the high-level overview, if you would like more information on the program, we ask that you would visit our website. We have a number of videos that you can go back and watch for more in-depth information on the program, like our Insights Outreach webinar or our other Deconstructing SBIR webisodes. So now that you have that information about the program, I want to change gears a bit and talk about my role as the outreach manager and DHS SBIR's goals to help the small business community and hopefully future applicants as we work to expand our outreach efforts. And we have a slide that we're going to put up in just a second, but what does that actually look like for us? So one of our key goals as we continue to bring more awareness to the program is by reaching out to underrepresented communities and individuals that we are working to diversify the science and engineering workforce. The ways we're doing this is by finding small businesses and special interest organizations, as well as state and local level organizations that can help us further expand that outreach. Now, this is an important piece of our outreach efforts, and that allows us to reach a greater number of small businesses and tap into the diverse innovation, technologies, and capabilities that can help us meet our mission needs. The second element of our outreach strategy involves identifying new avenues for communication and improving resource distribution. So while we often discuss engaging new communities and certainly aim to do so, we are equally committed to enhancing resources for those that are already familiar with our program or other SBIR programs. But still, we want to make sure that everyone is kept informed and they have the access to those resources. We often say that SBIR does not come with a checklist, an easy one at that, which is why we want to enhance that communication and have that as a goal. And last but not least, our third goal is about strategizing our opportunities and outreach at both in-person and virtual events. Now, there's a couple of reasons why this is one of our goals. So I know that we have some folks here today from a few of the past conferences we've been to, like the SBIR Road Tours, and a couple of other technology conferences. And while we want to meet one-on-one and talk with everyone about how great the program is, and of course it is, we also want to be sure that we're connecting with communities across the United States. And some of that is best done through a virtual presence. We're also working to invite you to our events throughout the year, so enhancing our Deconstructing SBIR webinar series. We'd always love to hear from you guys about what you want to hear from next. We also have an upcoming opportunity for you to hear from, some of our current work and our current phase 2 companies, and that is going to be our first responder showcase that we're hosting on July 9th and 10th. We're going to tell you a little bit about that later and how to get signed up. Now, I do want to circle back and caveat that our outreach goals, by saying that the DHS SBIR office, we have consistently made efforts over time to introduce the program to newcomers and engage with underrepresented communities. And that is what we're doing now, but now we're enhancing those efforts. So take, for example, the Deconstructing SBIR webinar series itself. That actually began long before the pandemic. We started this series, our program director started this series as a way to make information on the program more accessible to those who couldn't travel. Maybe there's a small business who, it wasn't in the budget to have an in-person event, halfway across the country. But there are opportunities to tune in to a webinar that's available for everyone, that takes about 30 to 40 minutes of your time to chat and understand the nuances of the program. Now, another way that DHS SBIR has worked to expand our outreach efforts is through our Phase 0 program. Now, you heard me at the beginning of the presentation say that SBIR is a 3-phase program, but Phase 0 is an initiative that we soft launched last year as an outreach and educational program for those that are new to SBIR, especially the DHS SBIR program. Some of you may be hearing about Phase 0 for the first time today. Some of you may have joined our Deconstructing SBIR last November, where we talked about, the resources through a Phase 0, like the webinar series that we did for new applicants immediately after the pre-solicitation was released. And those could help potential applicants understand the submission process and other access to assistance resources for new applicants. But so many of our outreach goals, I want to stress this, are actualized in the efforts of our Phase 0 program. So this is actually a great segue to the next portion of our webinar, where I will invite our special guest who is going to talk to us about Phase 0 and what's ahead in terms of resources and offerings through the program, especially outreach to new communities. And she's not coming from far. I'll go ahead and turn my computer this way. So I will let you just maybe scooch a little bit closer so you're in camera. I hope everyone can see us. But yes, so this is Dr. Servo, the president and founder of Dawnbreaker. This is the company on contract to support our Phase 0 program. So hello, Dr. Servo.
Hello, Connie. It's good to be here.
Thank you. We're so glad that you are here and talking about the program. Now, let's go ahead and get started. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role to implement Phase 0?
Sure. So as you mentioned, there was a soft launch just before the pre-solicitation last year. And so what we have been doing is designing the program to meet the needs of a very diverse audience. And you mentioned a variety of them. There are companies that may have already won awards, but they work, say, only with DoD. And they know nothing at all about DHS. They've never come over to the DHS world, okay? Not yet. So we want to make sure that they come over, okay? And there's things that they need to know. But they don't need to know as much as someone who has never submitted an SBIR proposal before. For that group, we need much more in terms of capabilities because it's hard to write a proposal for the first time. I went back to the pre-solicitation to look at how many pages there were in the pre-solicitation.
How many were there?
62.
Okay.
Okay.
A good way to read it.
So if the first introduction is a 62-page document without any guidance whatsoever, one might turn away.
Yeah.
And we don't want that to happen. So there's other types of services that are offered as part of Phase Zero for a wide variety, a wide spectrum. So do you want me to tell you what they are?
I would love that.
Okay.
Our audience would especially love it.
All right, I'll just give you the list first and then we can talk about them in detail. One is tutorials. Tutorials will have PDF version of content and also recordings. And those will be available starting in August all year long. And they will be up the whole time. So anyone who wants to learn about DHS in general and their SBIR program can go to that at any time. When the pre-solicitation comes out, which is in November, okay, then we start having webinars. And the webinars are 2 a week leading up to basically 2 a week because time goes by very, very quickly.
Yes.
The proposal is due in January after the holiday. And so between the pre-solicitation and when the proposals are due, there's a lot that has to be covered. And so we do that in webinars, and they're very tailored to that particular pre-solicitation and the solicitation that follows. Then going along with that is something new that's going to be launched this year, which is Industry Days. Industry Days will happen right after the pre-solicitation comes out. And it's a wonderful opportunity to hear from the topic managers, okay, who will talk about the topic that is in the pre-solicitation. And we're hoping that some of that will be in person and some of it also will be virtual. But that will be a wonderful opportunity for people to get to really understand the intent of the topic managers with those topics. Now, for those who need more support with writing proposals, there will be proposal preparation support. They will have to register for it. They'll have to put, because this is a STEM type of program, so science, technology, engineering, and math, we will ask for their resume, okay? We will ask which topic they're interested in applying to, and we will ask for a very brief 1-paragraph non-proprietary description of what they're interested in. And then in the past go-round, I reached out to them and had a conversation with them so I would understand them and their needs better. And then we looked for a match within the community where they reside, whether it was through the Apex accelerators or through the SBDCs or the SBTDCs.
Okay.
So that's a wide spectrum of services.
Yeah.
So again, tutorials, industry days after the pre-solicitation comes out, webinars after the pre-solicitation comes out, the opportunity to have a coach to help you go along. And we're also doing, starting soon, Train the Trainer, so that we can expand the network of service providers that understand the DHS program. Because since it's a smaller program, a lot of times people get trained on DoD or NSF, but not on DHS. And so that it's unique. Everyone is unique. So there you go.
No, and you know, I really think that it's important to note. Oh, I think you're a little bit off camera. So we're a little bit close, but you know, one of the things that is the benefit of Phase Zero is that really actually ties into our goals to provide these resources and a good way for us to for those again. We've been out on the road tours recently. We've gone to a number of events, and we've had a lot of new folks come up, and they say, what resources do you have? Do you have a one-pager? So that Phase Zero program is really the best way for small businesses. So for all the audience members that are small businesses, we hope there are many today, really to get involved. So there are such a great many resources for you all out there. And I want to take a moment, since we actually mentioned a lot of pieces of the Phase Zero program. So from the tutorials to the industry days, webinars, train the trainers, I want to break down, you gave a great overview, but let's just break down those just a little bit more and talk about with what's coming out next, those tutorials. So what can people expect, and what is the value of those?
Okay. So the tutorials will come out in August. And they're going to be available all year long. Okay, so one of the values is it's ever present. Okay, and it's also people learn in different ways. Some learn by reading or by watching, some learn by listening. So we have different modalities so that it handles people's preferences. The tutorials start with very general things. Okay, so DHS is a contracting organization, and therefore the process is what contracting agencies do, which is different than granting organizations. So there'll be a general introduction to, okay, what is a pre-solicitation? What can I do during the pre-solicitation? Why should I ask questions? How can I ask questions? You know, those type of things. But then it will go into different parts of the response to the solicitation in detail in various tutorials afterwards. So it starts macro. It's very defined. The budget that I have to submit.
Okay.
Not at the beginning, because you start with big picture and then winnow down.
Okay. That makes sense. Yes. Okay. And so I believe that the next items that we are working on are those industry days. This is this would be something new and something aspirational that we're doing. But you know, do you have an idea of what those would look like?
I do.
Great.
I know that Dusty's vision, okay, is
Our
to have
program
some of those-
director, Dusty,
Right.
you will have seen her on a lot of these webinars in the past.
is to have some of it in person, okay,
Mhm.
and it also in a hybrid format.
Yeah, and that really speaks to the, you know, for those that are able to join in person, but also for those that are across the United States, you know, and our pre-solicitation, you know, comes out, you know, and that like, you know, closer to the holiday timeline. So maybe for some it may be less easy to travel, so to speak. But I keep
Absolutely. But the objective is once that pre-solicitation comes out, you will have in your hands a description of the topics. And so again, going back to last year there were 6 topics. Every year it's somewhat different.
Yes.
Okay. And so you want to be able to understand exactly what DHS is looking for, what the topic managers from those various components are looking for. Now, even though their name is listed and you could contact them by email, a lot of times people who have never dealt with the government before are apprehensive about reaching out to the government to ask questions.
Or they think there's not someone on the other end of an email or something like that.
Absolutely. And so the industry days will have people there, okay, ready and prepared to answer questions about the topics. So it really is very specific to understanding the topic. It's not a time to pitch yourself or, you know, say any of those types of things, but it's the time to make sure you understand exactly what the intent is, because you can only be responsive to a solicitation topic if you know what the component really wants. And even though they've got it in words, there's still going to be questions that you're going to.
That's exactly right. And, you know, and I think that there are so many times in small businesses that we have met with in the past that have come up to us and said, like, how can I actually talk to somebody? And this is like, you know, this is part of that strategy goal where we're actually trying to, you know, put people in front of the people that, you know, that have the topics. I know. So that's such a great opportunity. And you know, with you mentioned the pre-solicitation, so you know that's a great precursor to the next thing that I wanted to bring on. So is webinars. You know, so when we launched the program last year, and again, if folks had joined last year, our Deconstructing SBIR, or if they're repeat folks that have heard about Phase 0, those webinars in the past, you know, we had this series of webinars, but Jenny, what do those actually look like? You know, what are the benefits? What are they going to look like this year? And how are they going to help you know, potential SBIR applicants, DHS SBIR applicants?
Right. Well, it's a general introduction, first of all, to the timeline. Okay. Which is important because it does go through the holiday period. Okay. In order to submit an application, not only to DHS, but to other organizations as well, you must register with System for Awards Management or SING. It takes time.
It does take time. Do you have an average time that it takes?
It just keeps changing.
It's just changing.
It's getting better. It's getting better. But again, with the holiday season approaching, a lot of people take leave at the end of the year because of the government policy. So you want to make sure that that registration, you get started right away, because it's not just you go in and you fill out a form and there it's done. It checks everything, and you can get booted out if you put in the wrong address. It's not the same exactly as your what you filed when you became a corporation or a DBA. If it's different, it's rejected. And so it takes time. So that's the first thing. The other thing is, I really think it's important that people develop a schedule, and we will propose one, as to how they're going to complete this. And we recommend that they talk with their family and their social network, because it's not as if working on a proposal just affects them.
That's true.
It affects everybody. And I assume that everyone either is working in school or whatever, and how are they going to fit this in? Because it takes time. So we do that. And then there are 4 primary criteria that all of the SBIR, the agencies that have SBIR, look at. Innovation. So as they're developing their response, they have to focus on innovation. So I like to focus on a technical proposal, because if you don't have that right, nothing else matters.
That's very true.
That's number one. Then who's doing it? Who are the people? So we talk about principal investigators and other people. What are the rules regarding PIs? And then you have to line up those people. Then there is commercialization. Do you have any experience? You know, the reviewers are going to look at how credible are you as someone that can do this. So we talk about that.
Because that is really one of the big goals of the SBIR program, is working towards commercialization.
Absolutely. And then also the budget. If you come in over budget, forget it. You have to make sure you stay with the budget. And one could assume that the budget is the same and the time frame for phase 1 is the same for every agency, and that's wrong. And so, I mean, DHS this past time had 5 months for the phase 1. I think that DHS is the only agency that I'm aware of that has a 5-month phase 1. Everyone else could say, well, so-and-so does 9 months, so-and-so does 12 months, so does 6 months. It's unique to DHS, and they've got to know what they have to accomplish during that period. So those are the types of things that we cover in webinars. We pick those different topics that relate to the primary criteria, and then we get down to the nuts and bolts of how do I submit it? What forms? What are the things that are going to, if I do it wrong, I'm going to be non-responsive. Which means that my proposal will not be reviewed. You do not want that to happen. So those are the types of things that we do, and it's very timely.
I want to reiterate, since Jenny, you brought up some of those numbers, that yes, like DHS is unique. I think we are the only ones, unless something else has changed with the other agencies. But yes, that phase 1 it takes we allow up to 5 months, and we provide $175,000 for that proof of concept development. And then in phase 2, that over a 24-month period of time, that's where you would work towards for the actual prototype development. And I mentioned this earlier, but for folks that hadn't joined earlier, but in that phase 2, that's where we typically fund up anywhere from $1 to $1.5 million. So I know that we've gone over a lot of really great stuff, Jenny, and this is good, especially for those that are new to the program. This is probably a good segue into, talking about what phase 0 can and cannot do. So, how about, and I know that we both know this, but, how about maybe Spice and you be nice so I can talk about what it can't do, and I can let you talk about what it can do. First off, if we haven't mentioned this yet, the program does not offer any sort of funding to offerers. So it's not like you're going to get funding for attending webinars or participating in phase 0. or, for participating in that like mentoring coaching,
Right.
either. Secondly, this is not a program that prepares your proposal or provides assistance in preparing submissions, if you will. So we're not going to tell you what to propose. You don't get an in. We're essentially giving you those tools. And I think, you had described it yesterday when we were talking very well. It's like giving you the keys to understand how to do it and some of those nuances. But this is a way to put the best proposal together for small businesses, given the resources that they have. One of our goals at DHS SBIR has never been to get more applications. It's to get better quality applications. And Jenny, I can let you speak to what the program, what Phase Zero can do.
Well, again, there's a spectrum of resources, but one that I want to make sure people understand is because we do want to involve people who have a STEM background and who have never applied before. We want to make sure that they understand how to write a proposal if they've never done that.
Okay.
So for that, they do register and apply for mentoring services, where we refer them. Now, mentoring doesn't mean that anyone writes a proposal for you.
Yes.
That's one of the things it does not do. Okay. But it provides a coach who will, on an ongoing basis, review what you have been doing, because you don't want someone just to read your proposal at the end after all the time's gone by and you've never done one before, and they review it and they say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. You don't want that to happen. But the mentor is there to guide you, but not to do the work for you. You have to do it.
Yeah. That's so great. I do want to actually circle back on one thing. I know that there are a number of folks that were on that are on this webinar that also attended the webinars last year. So I'll just throw this question out to you. If there's somebody on here that says, hey, I joined the webinars last year, I don't really think that I need to join them this year. I think I've gotten everything that I need to. What would you say to that?
Well, that assumes that the program is static. That there's no changes from one year to the next.
Okay.
There's always changes. They may not be big changes, but they are important changes. It could be the amount of money. It could be new forms that you have to fill out. It could be any number of things. And so it's important to at least listen in on some of them, to make sure that you have a perspective on any kind of changes that there have been. An hour. Oh, and I should say that it's neat and dusty. Okay, so it really is a great value to have the DHS SBIR program director answering questions. So I'm giving information, and you may ask questions that perhaps I don't know the answer to, but Dusty will. So I'm putting Dusty on the spot. But anyway, so it's really a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, Dusty is such a great resource. I strive to have as much knowledge as she does one day about the program, but I don't think I'm ever going to get there. So last but not least, so let's talk about these train the trainer opportunities for Phase Zero, because someone may have heard that and not quite understand what that was, and this is our chance to talk about it. I know we talked about earlier how SBIR is reaching out to organizations that have access to small businesses. That was one of our goals. How we're engaging support ecosystems. That's something that we're really striving to focus on this year, and something that, is actualized through Phase Zero. So what are the train the trainers, and, how does this supplement our outreach goals?
Okay, so Train the Trainer is a series, of 4 webinars with homework. Okay.
With homework.
With homework using the learning management system. Okay, so we use an LMS. And the first part of it, the first 4, is making sure people understand SBIR and the evaluation criteria. The trainers do, because the network, there's a lot of people who are not familiar with SBIR in general. And so because the evaluation criteria, the 4 primary ones that I mentioned, are important to understand, and how to go through a solicitation is important to understand for the trainer, okay, as well. So the first 4 webinars are really dealing with SBIR and solicitations and pre-solicitations, contracting versus grants, that type of thing. The last 4 are really focused very specifically on the DHS pre-solicitation and solicitation, so that they can provide guidance for the companies that are going through. Okay. And so, and then people that go through that series then will be qualified to be someone to whom we refer a company to, anywhere in the country, because they will understand the DHS solicitation. So the first Train the Trainer is in July, and that's fully subscribed. Okay, that's 40 people. And then we will be doing 2 more. I'm thinking that I can do one in October, because I'd like to do it before the pre-solicitation comes out. So I would, and we have done an email blitz to all the SBDCs and the Apex accelerators, and for the first one. We will do that again for the one in October, and then there'll be another one in 2025.
Yeah, and if you are a SBDC, okay, it's a little late in the afternoon for me, I suppose, or an Apex Accelerator, and you're on today, and if you're interested in that, please go ahead and send us an email. We're going to put our email in the chat, stsbir.program@hq.dhs.gov. We can certainly pass along your information in regard to the Train the Trainers if you are interested in the next one, or if you're a small business that is connected to an SBCD or an Apex Accelerator or another support organization, please also send us an email. We're always interested in going out, meeting people, whether that's virtually or, if we're at events, trying to see who is out there in the network as well.
Well, maybe I could address that.
Yes.
Who should apply? Okay. DHS has centers of excellence in a number of universities. And so it could be people that are graduating or postdocs, who are working in the field, may not know about this, and they would be good candidates. There could be people who are taking early retirement from different industries, or from federal labs, who want to do something different, and they maybe are in a position to try entrepreneurship. There could also be, during COVID, when children were being cared for at home, some mothers may have stayed at home and now be deciding that, hey, I want to go back and I want to do something that I want to do. And they may become an entrepreneur, so looking at the diversity, people that we're trying to draw in, so sometimes the groups that we want to come in may not think of themselves as a potential candidate, but they should.
And that's something that is really important to note too. One of the things that we often talk about is DHS, again, 14 operational components, over 250,000 employees. I believe that earlier I said those were federal employees, but I want to correct myself and say I believe that is actually contracted federal employees. So I'm going to correct myself there. But with those operational components, the unique thing is that we have, everything from screening at speed that we are, those technologies that we're working towards. We have, Secret Service who, while they protect our nation's leaders, right, they also combat counterfeit currency, so there's a lot of things that people don't think about, first responder technology, that's something that we do too. There's so many creative, innovative, small businesses out there, and it truly is, the backbone of the American economy. And we are always striving, we're always trying to reach out to those folks and tell them, like, listen, we're looking for your innovation.
Yeah, it's interesting because even though the SBIR program has been around for over 40 years, there's still so many people that don't know anything at all about it.
That's right.
So going along with what you're saying, one thing I should just add, besides SBDCs and the Apex accelerators, the FAST recipients, those are entities that receive awards from SBA, and a lot of them are very focused also on SBIR. And so, any service network like that are people that can participate in training.
That's right. All right. Well, I do want to ask you this actually. I know that you have also worked, with us and with other entities. What is your best advice to small businesses, maybe some of those that are new as well and are looking to, either apply for DHS SBIR or get into the Phase Zero program and access those resources?
So what is my recommendation for what?
What is your advice to them, kind of like moving forward? Would that be like starting out with, registering via sam.gov or?
Well, no, because by itself, I mean, why would one do that? If they didn't know that you have to in order to get paid. Okay. So once you realize that in order to not only apply but to get paid, you need to register with SAM, then they would. But I think that if they intend to apply, that at any point get that out of the way.
Okay.
So I think your point is well taken. Just get it out of the way because every agency that has an SBIR program requires that. There are other ones as well, like registering with SBA's SBIR.gov, but that's simple. Okay. But SAM is not.
Okay. Well, with that, why don't we go ahead and move to Q&A? And actually, while everyone is putting in their questions, we do have something that we want to show you. I know that Jenny, you talked about, you can still stay answering. Please, I don't want to answer all these questions by myself. But yes, Jenny had mentioned a number of things from the tutorials to webinars and train the trainer. So we're just going to have this up on screen for you all for a couple of minutes here while we start to go through these questions. This may be a great reference for you all if you want to take a picture of that, just to understand, kind of like what's coming when. And I believe that what we have on the screen is what's coming in chronological order.
It is.
Okay. It is. Okay, well, we are going to go ahead and go to questions. So we'll go ahead and take that slide down. Okay, so, all right, so we've got some great questions that are coming in. All right, so the first one is, how do we get involved in the Train the Trainer program? And I think we touched on this a little bit earlier. That's if, folks want to send an email into stsbir.program@hq.dhs.gov. That link should be in the chat. Is anything else that you want to add, Jenny?
They should add themselves to a mailing list so that we know when the pre-solicitation is coming out. So the DHS SBIR mailing list is important to have. There is a website associated with the Phase Zero program, and so that's what they will get when they go to that site. Is that it?
That is what they will get.
Okay, yes. And so they can look there periodically. But again, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's a great idea. When we follow up for those that join the webinar today, we will provide that link actually in our thank you for joining us follow-up email. But yes, please continue.
And definitely around the time that the pre-solicitation comes out, okay, which is going to be in early November, that's when you definitely need to jump in, okay, because DHS has one solicitation a year, and the pre-solicitation is in November, and you don't want to miss that.
Yeah, Jenny brought up this. Yes, our mailing list, that's really one of the best ways to stay connected with us. We like to think that, we don't spam people. We maybe send, 4 emails a month, maybe 5 or 6 on a really busy month. But it's the way that we want to keep you informed, let you know about our news. When the pre-solicitation comes out, when our webinars are out there. So I highly suggest, we're going to have that in just a minute, but you can go to our portal, you can sign up for the mailing list there, but that is one of the best ways to stay connected with us. All right, well, we'll go ahead and move to some other questions. So next, if you've had a Phase Zero for DOE, are you able to apply for Phase Zero DHS?
Okay.
I'll let you take this one.
All right. So So the Department of Energy has a Phase Zero program. It's structured very differently than the Department of Homeland Security. And DHS is using the network of service providers, whereas DOE Phase Zero uses us as the providers. So they're totally different. So you're more than welcome to apply to the DHS Phase Zero program. Totally separate.
Yes. Okay. Oh, this is a great question. Where can we apply for mentoring services?
It will be on the website, the DHS website.
Is that live now? And can they get started? Can they pre-get started, or when does that open?
So that opens when the pre-solicitation comes out.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good. All right. Okay. So then, right. Oh, this is a great question. Do I have to participate in Phase Zero to receive an award or to apply for a I think that was what the question is. Do I have to participate in the Phase Zero to receive an award, or at least to, submit an application for a Phase One? Yeah.
Not at all.
Yes.
Yeah, this is really just to assist those who would like the assistance, but one does not have to participate in Phase Zero with any program in order to submit an application.
I know that is actually, yeah, that is the great benefit and truly fantastic item for this program. So okay, I'm gonna see if there are any other questions that are coming in the last minute. Okay, so another question, if we registered for this session, so this webinar, I think is what they're saying, are we automatically on the email list? The other short answer, that's a short answer, the question is no. You may have found out about this through the DHS SBIR mailing list, but I know that we sent out, we posted on SBIR.gov about this event. We've asked partners, so this may have come from an email, or you may have found us on social media or something like that. But again, if you would please go to the SBIR portal. Again, this link has been put in the chat a few times here. But if you can go ahead and do that, and then just sign up at the bottom, and then we will add you to the mailing list.
So one of the things that we just mentioned, the only thing related to DHS Phase Zero that you need to register for is if you want mentoring services. Industry days, absolutely not. Anyone, most industry days, that's a wonderful opportunity. Anyone can use the tutorials. Anyone can come to however many webinars they want. The only thing you have to register for is basically if you want to have mentoring support.
And something else that we also will do, I just thought about this. We're actually going to be providing information in our follow-up email to those that joined today on how to get signed up and like where to go on the portal to actually see where to sign up for that mailing list. So I promise that we will make it very easy for you. So, okay, well, I believe that those are all of our questions for today. We truly thank all of you for joining. We hope that you access those resources through the Phase Zero program. I want to give a big thank you to our special guest, Dr. Jenny Servo, who is who joined us today. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome, Tom.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks everybody. We hope to see you at the next Deconstructing SBIR, and don't forget to sign up for our mailing list. Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna take that back. We're not finished. My producer just noted that I have to plug our next event, the First Responder Showcase. So we're gonna put the link to that in the chat. But an easy way to see this is just to scan the QR code that is currently on the screen. So I'll just give folks just another 10 seconds to do that. But we'll also be providing that in the thank you email for joining, and then we can go ahead, and if you do want to take a picture of this next slide, this is also how we can see how you can get information on how to sign up for our mailing list, as well as information on some of our what am I think? What's the word I'm thinking of? Social media channels. So there we go, and it is up. So if you want information, if you want to join our mailing list, that's exactly how you can do it. We will go ahead and go off camera, and we will leave that slide up for you. Again, thank you everyone for joining today, and thank you, Dr. Servo. So thank you.